I understand. Yeah, the running backs disappointed week one, but let me show you something cool. If we go back and look at every rookie running back that's been relevant since like 2017, and we take what they did in their first NFL game ever, and I look at what they did through the rest of their rookie seasons, these guys get better. McCaffrey jumped from 11.5 points in his first NFL game to 14.3 the rest of his rookie season on a per game perspective. Barkley, he was a league winning option as a rookie, still improved from 20.8 points in his first NFL game ever to 24.1 the rest of the way. Javonte, 5.1 in week one, 12.1 the rest of the season. Travis Etienne jumps from 8.5 to 12.1. Najee Harris jumps from 5.8 to 17.7. Dameon Pierce jumps from 14.9 to 12.8. Breece Hall jumps from 12.1 to 16.4. Achane scored 1.9 points as his first NFL game, and then he had 17.3 points per game the rest of the way. Bucky Irving from 9.6 to 14.4. Jahmyr Gibbs from 8 to 16.1. The only rookie running back that got worse as his rookie season went on after his first NFL game ever was Bijan Robinson. And obviously we see what Bijan's done since then. And Bijan, turns out he's completely fine running back. It's just a coaching staff issue his first NFL season. So as I go out there and potentially shop for some running backs in fantasy right now, like if you have a running back that's turned to dust and you need to fill a starting spot, these would be the guys that I would recommend. And also if they're on your roster, I really do want you to be holding on to them because I think there are brighter days ahead. Starting with Omarion Hampton, because I go anywhere and I just see people clowning on Hampton. I see, oh, the Chargers are now a pass-first offense. Oh, Omarion Hampton at the bottom of the NFL with his rushing yards over expectation at negative 1.67 per attempt. We go through and see, oh yeah, Omarion Hampton wasn't good on the football field. He needs to get better. Frankly, it's his first game ever. He played the Kansas City Chiefs defense in Brazil on a Friday night game. What the hell were you expecting from him? In my opinion, you look at that Friday night performance and it was exactly what I wanted to see from Omarion Hampton, because he just completely cucked Najee Harris, and Najee Harris is going to be standing on the sideline through the rest of the year. Omarion Hampton, his first NFL game ever, he saw 52 out of 65 potential snaps. Omarion Hampton, in terms of the touches in this backfield, had 15 carries in comparison to Najee Harris at 1. And now, yes, the one concern that I had with Omarion Hampton from this game, which was very frustrating, is Omarion Hampton didn't really get used as a receiver. But if we go back to his time at UNC, I've talked about this through the entire process, that wasn't a concern back then. You actually had him as a very capable bell cow running back that still got involved on third downs and still drew targets out of the backfield. We go through and we look at his overall prospect profile, and this is a running back that has the size to be a workhorse, did it in college, had the receiving skill set in college, was an elite athlete at the NFL Combine, and got the round 1 NFL draft capital. So are you really going to panic because he had one bad game against arguably one of the best defenses in the NFL? That'd be ludicrous. Like, we go through and we look at the running backs that graded out similarly or better to Omarion Hampton since the year 2016, according to the Fantasy Stock Exchange prospect model on flockfantasy.com. And you have Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, McCaffrey, Jeanty, who we'll talk about in a second, Leonard Fournette, Zeke, Taylor, who we'll talk about in a second, Joe Mixon, Javonte, Omarion Hampton, and Travis Etienne. If I go over to the trade finder on flockfantasy.com, you have somebody trading Josh Jacobs for Ladd McConkey and Omarion Hampton, and that's a 12-team full PPR start 8 format. This is the exact format of the Flock League. This is the exact format that I have Josh Jacobs in, and I would love to trade Josh Jacobs for Omarion Hampton and a solid high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1. Another trade that we see is somebody swapping Egbuka for Hampton and Waddle. Another trade that we see is somebody trading DeAndre Swift and Deebo Samuel for Omarion Hampton and Stephon Diggs. Now I'm recording this right as the Monday night game kicks off. I got it on a little monitor right here. So obviously I'll be updating the DeAndre Swift rest of season ranking on flockfantasy.com after the game. You can see it on the site right now. And another thing that you really need to make sure you're using the site for is we have by far and away the best trade calculator in the industry. Not even remotely close. It's free as well. You can put in your exact league settings. It's the first trade calculator that I've ever seen in fantasy football that can accurately determine the value drop-off that you have from the elite players, such as Bijan, Gibbs, Barkley, Henry, and then the good players, such as Josh Jacobs. So please make sure you're using that trade calculator before you finalize any trades for any of these players. And also, we have a trade finder on the site for free as well that will give you a good sense of exactly what price point you should be paying and what trades are happening in real fantasy football leagues. I'll leave the link to flockfantasy.com in the description and comment section. Now, Jonathan Taylor will be the next running back that I want to talk about. Now, I'm a little realistic here, right? I'm not expecting you to be able to go out there and just get Jonathan Taylor at a basement level price because Jonathan Taylor didn't have a ton of fantasy points week 1. Now, honestly, I got so lucky. I played against Sal in the Flock League based on the first half where Jonathan Taylor did not come off the field. You are reading that right. The first half, there were 43 Colts snaps. Jonathan Taylor played 43 of them. Jonathan Taylor played 52 consecutive snaps before coming off the field when the game was 23-0. Jonathan Taylor is going to be the number 1 bell cow in the NFL this week, and I got so lucky that Taylor did not drop 30 points on my head. And a big reason for this is once you got to the goal line, we had Daniel Jones stealing some of those rushing touchdowns. Now, maybe you are a massive Daniel Jones believer. Maybe you think that Daniel Jones is Cam Newton. I personally don't. So I would not expect that Daniel Jones has multiple rushing touchdowns every week going into the future. And I would expect personally that we actually have more of these going in the direction of Jonathan Taylor. If we go over and look at what Hayden Winks put out for week 1 expected fantasy points, you had only Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley ahead of JT. And we go ahead and look at where I'm going to be putting Jonathan Taylor in my rest of season rankings. We have him right alongside Jeanty, Bucky, Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, all of whom phenomenal options. I know it seems like we're not moving Jonathan Taylor up our rankings that much after week 1, but that's only if you're looking at the positional rankings. If you go over to the overall rankings on flockfantasy.com, you'll see that I'm sliding him ahead of a lot of the receivers. I feel like an idiot for ranking Brian Thomas Jr., for ranking Nico Collins, for ranking Drake London over these running backs. They're all flying up to players that should have gone at the 1-2 turn if I was smart enough to have taken them there. And what's so encouraging about this Jonathan Taylor usage week 1 is you go back and look at what happened at the end of last season. Because we look at weeks 14, 15, 16, 17, and in that month-long stretch, according to flockfantasy.com, Jonathan Taylor averaged 26.5 points per game, which was the number 1 mark in the NFL. He played 77% of the snaps. He was first in the NFL in rushing attempts per game, first in the NFL in rushing yards per game, first in the NFL in total touchdowns per game, and first in the NFL in total yards per game. So Taylor looks like he can be a very easy locked and loaded bell cow, RB1. The price point that you need to go out there and pay for him, obviously this first trade, if you threw this into the trade calculator, it said that it wouldn't be fair at all. You'd be robbing him, but I saw somebody trade Chuba Hubbard and Zay Flowers for Jonathan Taylor, which I thought was hilarious. If you can get JT there, for the love of God, do it. Saw somebody trade Drake London and Bucky Irving for Puka Nacua and Jonathan Taylor. And I actually saw another trade involving Bucky and Taylor where it looks like a lot of people would just clearly view Bucky Irving as a better option than Jonathan Taylor, which Bucky, phenomenal game in his own right. But for me personally, I think these running backs are back to back. So like seeing that Bucky and London for Taylor and Puka trade, I really like that for the reason of I think you're making a lateral move / slight upgrade at running back, but tearing up at wide receiver from London to Puka. Now, another rookie running back here, a running back that I actually had in the buy low video last week. This is before he signed with the Browns, was Quinshon Judkins. The writing was on the wall. I mean, I drafted him in a ridiculous amount of underdog drafts before the season, sending up a prayer that he did end up playing. Funny enough, I actually have a friend that I know that drafted Quinshon Judkins in the 5th round of a fantasy football league. Yes, that is true. He drafted Judkins in the 5th round of a fantasy draft before Quinshon Judkins was officially signed to play for an NFL team. That speaks to how much these dynasty guys like the talent profile of Judkins. And we can just go over and we can see this with what we had with the prospect page on flockfantasy.com, where Quinshon Judkins, he goes through and he comps historically to a lot of these running backs like Nick Chubb that go on to give you a high-end RB2 production, low-end RB1 production depending on the season. If I'm going through and if I'm looking at some of these trades that happened for Judkins, somebody traded Cam Scatterbo for him today, and honestly, I would 100% make that trade. I have Cam Scatterbo in the Flock League. Now, I know my buddy, Nathan, he's not going to be willing to make that deal, so I'm not even going to bother offering it. But maybe you have somebody in your league that will. Tyrone Tracy got traded for Judkins and Devonta Smith. I would rather have the Judkins side there. And somebody flipped Josh Downs for Judkins. Now, full transparency, Dylan Sampson's going to have a role in this backfield. Dylan Sampson looks like he is going to be the receiving back in Cleveland, where we should expect that Quinshon Judkins is the first and second down player. But Dylan Sampson had a great role week 1, and he looked good at the same time. Now, our next running back that I need to talk about will be Ashton Jeanty. There were only 5 running backs that comped historically to Jeanty going back to 2016 as a prospect. You had Barkley, Bijan, McCaffrey, Fournette, and Zeke. And with those 5 RBs, Zeke turned out to be a league-winning name. McCaffrey was okay. Bijan Robinson was okay. And Saquon Barkley won leagues. And we see what Ashton Jeanty did week 1. You pull up the box score and yeah, it's ugly. His longest carry was 9 yards. Yeah, I was very disappointed with, to be honest, as he only had 2 receptions for 2 receiving yards. Like the fantasy points at the end of the day, it was a disaster. But if you actually go and look at what happened, like this tweet from Matt Waldman will show you like Ashton Jeanty having 3 Patriots on him behind the offensive line. And what's actually hilarious is Ashton Jeanty picked up 3 yards on this carry. We go over and we see from Ian that Ashton Jeanty only had 38 rushing yards in week 1, but he had 44 yards after contact. So if you believe the Patriots have a very good defense this year, which I personally do, and if you believe that the Raiders offensive line will be not good, but better in future weeks than they were in week 1, I think Ashton Jeanty has proven that he has the talent profile that we are going to look for. And if we go back to what he was his second to final year in college, you'll actually see that he led all running backs in college football in receiving yards. So I do think that there's a chance that he sees a dramatic improvement with his overall receiving volume. But the main thing I want to point out is very similar to Omarion Hampton. It's his first NFL game ever, and he plays 54 snaps out of a potential 63. He's immediately a bell cow running back in this backfield. Looking at trades, somebody traded Brian Thomas and Javonte for Ashton Jeanty and Breece Hall. For me, I'd rather have Jeanty over Brian Thomas at this point. And somebody traded Trevon Henderson and JMO, we'll talk about in a second, for Ashton Jeanty as well. Now, going over and looking at Trevon Henderson, I know you're rolling your eyes because at this point, we're just talking about rookie running back after rookie running back after rookie running back. And don't worry, we're going to talk about more in just 1 second. Now, looking at what Trevon Henderson did week 1, it was horrendous. Trevon Henderson week 1 gets you 5 carries. Yeah. 5 carries for 27 rushing yards. If we're going to look at the snaps, Ramondre Stevenson, 46 snaps in comparison to Trevon Henderson at 25. But this is the risk that you would always have if you decided to put a rookie running back in your starting lineup. This is why we always talk about with the guys like Matthew Golden, Travis Hunter, Trevon Henderson. Hell, I said it with Igbuka too, so it's not always right, that I would rather see it before I believe it. I would rather have them on my bench, be super excited about the long-term upside, and once they go out there and they smash like Igbuka did week 1, then we know, okay, now we can trust them and we can put them inside our starting lineup every single week going into the future. With Trevon, the comparable prospects that we have from a prospect score perspective were Najee, Breece, Gibbs, Dalvin, Kamara, Chubb, Kenneth Walker, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Brooks, and DeAndre Swift. Then you go out to the preseason, you absolutely dominate. And what's very interesting to note here as well is if Ramondre is the guy that's playing ahead of Trevon Henderson right now, that's a very low hurdle that you have to jump. This isn't Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray back in the day. This is Ramondre Stevenson. And coming from somebody who had a disastrous running back room last year in the Flock League and was forced to start Ramondre Stevenson on occasions, first-hand experience here that Ramondre Stevenson, he's not a good running back. We even saw that with the efficiency this first week, where he averages 4 yards per target, and he averages about 2 yards per carry. Where Trevon, immediately the more efficient running back. Where Trevon, you actually, not a great day yards per target wise, you get 4 again, but at least yards per carry, you're seeing over 5 with Trevon Henderson, where you have the long run as well. So if I was a betting man, I'm going to assume that Trevon continues to take more and more away from Ramondre Stevenson. And if people are currently concerned with the Ramondre usage, this is the time to pick him up. Very similar to how we showed at the very beginning of the video, that all the rookie running backs perform worse in week 1 than you're going to expect them to through the rest of the year, unless your name's Bijan Robinson. And looking at trades that have happened, according to the trade finder on flockfantasy.com, you have somebody trading Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt for Trevon. Now, I understand Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt outscores Trevon Henderson week 1. As somebody who drafted Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt and has him on his bench right now, I don't know who has Trevon in the Flock League, but I would love to trade you Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt for him. And then the other trade that we saw happen, somebody traded A.J. Brown, George Pickens, Isaiah Pacheco for Brian Thomas, Trevon Henderson, David Njoku. I would way rather have Henderson over Pacheco. I would rather have Brian Thomas over A.J. Brown, and I don't think George Pickens is going to bridge the gap for us. Now, going over to our next running back, we got to talk about R.J. Harvey. We got to just do the full circle around all the rookie RBs. With R.J. Harvey, in my opinion, he wasn't as good of a prospect as what you had with Judkins. He wasn't as good of a prospect as Jeanty, obviously, or Trevon Henderson. But you get the round 2 NFL draft capital, and we're already seeing the efficiency. You had a 50-yard rush week 1 off of only 6 carries, right? R.J. Harvey gets 6 carries, and one of them goes for 50 yards. J.K. Dobbins, it took him 16 carries just to pick up 63. Now, of course, the usage is all in with J.K. Dobbins right now, where Dobbins has 40 snaps in comparison to R.J. Harvey at only 22. But this is very reminiscent of what we had back, and I know everybody just wants to go, oh, Sean Payton. But like, you go back and look at what Kamara did super early in his rookie season and compared to what he did in the second half of his year. Obviously, as time went on, he did take more work from Mark Ingram. I'm not expecting R.J. Harvey to ever come out here and be like a true 3-down bell cow level running back, but I do think he's going to expand his role in this offense, and I think this offense is actually going to play much better going into the future, where obviously they disappointed with Bo Nix 2 interceptions week 1. Now, the other running back that we have been beating the drum for all offseason is Trey Benson. You know, I got to give you a little cheapo running back that you can throw on here at the end. And with Trey Benson, my thought process all along has been, well, James Conner is getting to the age where historically, using the range of outcomes tool and looking at all these 30-year-old running backs, this is about the time where you see the step back with the efficiency, the step back with the volume, a higher risk for injury. And with James Conner, the risk for injury was already very high. You had all the buzz coming into the season out of Arizona camp from James Conner himself, from Trey Benson, from this coaching staff, of them telling us Trey Benson's going to be very much involved this year, a way that he wasn't last season. And that made me draft a ton of Trey Benson and very little James Conner. And actually, after seeing what happened week 1, I feel really good about that, because Trey Benson comes through and he plays 10 third downs in comparison to James Conner with only 3. So it actually seems like Trey Benson may be transitioning over to being like the passing down running back for this offense, which is going to be very interesting, because in future weeks, if the Arizona Cardinals are trailing in games and we get Trey Benson out there for more and more involvement, both in the 2-minute drill as well as on third downs, the receiving volume could actually be there. I understand he didn't draw a ton of receiving yards or receptions or even targets week 1, but the efficiency was great. We had the 52-yard long rush attempt. James Conner, on the other hand, barely averaged 3 yards per carry, and James Conner, super inefficient receiver here as well. Yes, you get the receiving touchdown, which saves James Conner's day, but at the end of the day, he has 5 receiving yards off of 4 targets, good for 1.25 yards per target. So I'm concerned with the efficiency of James Conner. I'm concerned with the injury history. I think Trey Benson could be an absolute desperation start if you're playing in a deeper league if James Conner is healthy. But if Conner were to go down and now Trey Benson's establishing himself as a potential third down candidate, I think Trey Benson could be this year's Chase Brown. But I think that's all I got for you. I know it's a boring video, but the last thing I want to see is us go on the live stream every single night here and people just asking, oh, do I need to trade Trevon Henderson? Oh, do I need to trade away R.J. Harvey? Oh, do I need to trade away Omarion Hampton? With the rookies, please give them a little bit of time. I understand maybe Omarion Hampton didn't look amazing on Friday night, but the fact of the matter is the roles for these players in the case of Hampton and Jeanty, already phenomenal. In the case of Harvey and Henderson, were expected to be smaller and increase as time goes on, and they're already flashing that efficiency. But I will keep my rankings up to date on the site for everybody who got the season pass. And on top of that, make sure that you are using the trade calculator on flockfantasy.com. It's free. the trade finder on flockfantasy.com as well. Those are going to make it where you are very, very likely to win your trades this season. And at the very least, you're not going to get robbed, which is kind of what I care most about. But I'm going to leave the link to the trade finder and trade calculator down in the comment section and in the description. I really appreciate you, and I really hope I get to see you out in the live stream later tonight.